Hello everyone. I'm bringing Helena Tadasa, a community health, a mental health advocate, to advise us on some important points on how to deal with trauma as a community and individuals. Helena Tadasa is a community advocate for mental health, like I said, founder of ET, which documents and catalogs hate speech during the Tigray genocide, and the program manager at HPN for Tigray. Welcome, Helena. There is no better time to talk about this than today.
Thank you so very much. Thank you for having me, Dada.
Very good. You have been tracking the complex trauma happening in our society, both inside and outside. And then I want you to now take into consideration now the talks that are coming up, like peace talks and some tiny openings to Tigray, so the diaspora community and our society inside are connecting and talking each other. Some bad news are being heard. Some are worse than what was expected. So what kind of pain and trauma are we dealing with as people, especially talking about the diaspora community?
Thank you, Zahawi. And there's never been a better time than right now to discuss this, although I'm so proud of our community because we've been talking about this for quite some time now. 2+ years of the Tigray genocide. And as you mentioned, even though we're on the second month or so of the so-called peace negotiations or peace agreement, we know that part of the northeastern part of Tigray, as well as the western Tigray, still is occupied by perpetrators who have been the cause for such crisis, such devastating crisis that has caused and continue to causes the trauma of our people. And so whenever we talk about mental health, and as you mentioned, this is something that I've chosen to dedicate honestly, the rest of my life to, and proudly as a Tigray YT, is the need for our community to focus on mental health as part of our advocacy, as part of our community advocacy, as part of advocating for ourselves in order to continue to take care of our community, but also now and always thinking about the rehabilitation and rebuilding phase that is, God willing, quickly approaching. What will that take for our community within Tigray? And so, as you mentioned before our interview, our conversation today is going to be heavy on the diaspora. And so I'd like to first begin with quickly identifying what is trauma. We use that word a lot, and if we were to look it up right now, we would see that it says that trauma is deeply distressing or disturbing experiences, which can include feelings of fear, helplessness, and shock. Of course, this brings up that light bulb in our minds immediately. Tigray genocide would be one of the most, or any genocide would be one of the most traumatic events a human being can go through. We know that trauma can have long-lasting effects on a person's mental and physical health and can cause changes on their thoughts, behavior, and relationships. And so to answer your question, what is our diaspora specifically going through right now? We're going through confusion, that's for sure. And that has to be acknowledged because while in the heat of fighting, whether you're, fighting on the policy side, fighting on social media, meaning fighting to bring awareness to the cause, in whatever way you've chosen to help our people in Tigray, this may not have been the outcome you had in your mind. For some of us, we didn't know what to expect, but maybe this was not it. And for most of us, I believe, in realizing that our Tigray government has done what is best for our community back home. And we know that because of how Tigrayans back home are reacting to this respite, to this momentary peace. that we have to find ways of not only coping with what this peace process and peace agreement looks like, but also trying to stay focused on the long haul, because this is, as they say, not a marathon. Or this is not a this is a marathon. Sorry. It's a longer version of what we thought. So that's one trauma we're dealing with and facing. That's how it is, the trauma of being shocked of what we thought peace would look like and how it would come.
Yeah, very good. And we are not the first people to go through such a trauma. Certainly, a lot of bad things happened in the world and societies elsewhere. But how best is a community such as ours advised to deal with such very, very complex, massive traumatization?
I mean, to put it in the most simple terms, kindness to ourselves, kindness with each other. One other type of trauma we're going through, of course, with the lines of communications opening up slowly, very slowly, is learning that our family members have either died because of lack of medication, which continues to happen, or have been killed brutally, as other family members have sadly watched. So we're hearing a lot of traumatizing news. And unfortunately, that type of trauma compounded by this feeling of maybe a letdown of what we thought peace would look like is unfortunately, very unfortunately, having a divisive effect on our community that was for 2 years band together as a response to what was being done to our people. So like you mentioned, genocides have happened in the past, notably, of course, the Holocaust, Rwanda, Bosnia, Myanmar, the Rohingya community that's most recently. And so research and data from these past events and continuous research in current events show us that there are ways that and processes that we need. It's a need. It's not even a suggestion. It's a need that need to be put in place in order to help and possibly ensure the survival of our current community and future generations to come. If we have a moment, I would love to, for the sense of diaspora, to kind of name quickly about 6 things that we can start doing right now. Do we have that time?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, just in general notes, just trying to put together something for today's program. And I know we don't have long, but number one, the very, very first thing is to acknowledge that this trauma has happened to us and to each other. That may seem like a no-brainer, but especially for advocates and especially those who have been in mourning for such a long time, our people are not all acknowledging that this is a traumatic event that has happened. We're just seeing it as something horrible that's happened, but acknowledging it meaning that we're understanding and we're saying to ourselves, first and foremost, that, wow, this heavy traumatic event that has happened in our lives and in my life is going to affect me in those ways that I mentioned when defining the word trauma. Number 2, this is a big one, and our HPN mental health and wellness and community wellness team does a really great job of advocating for and really pressing for providing support resources. So this comes in way of support groups. Saturdays, there's a support group that meets that is in Tigrai, which is really wonderful for our abetis and just community alike. In the past, there were 3-4 other support groups that were in mixed language and some that were completely in English. But with people's schedules, unfortunately, now those groups are not available. So I really would like to promote right here, if you can start a Zoom group where people can just join you and have these conversations, it makes such a big and profound impact. So I know Vegas has a really active community. I know Atlanta has an amazing community. I mean, all of our communities globally are amazing. I want to really encourage you to start groups, and Zoom is a really great way of doing it. Number 3 is addressing the root causes of the trauma. When we are having these conversations led by each other, don't be afraid to dive deep. You don't have to be a psychologist, a psychiatrist. Actually, you're the very person our people are waiting for, and these conversations that are culturally very familiar to us that we would usually have during bunna ceremonies or bunna time, or unfortunately, when we gather in these leksos, or even in happy times, weddings and things like that. We're a communal people, so having ways to have these conversations and then not being afraid to dig down. What is it that's stressing you?
So discussions and revisiting the conversation helps rather than shying away. Is that what?
Absolutely. Thank you. That was a perfect way of saying it. Yeah. If you are able to share, just know what you're saying is something that so many people are thinking. So you're doing that group a service by speaking your mind and knowing that you're in a safe space with other Tigrayans. Number 4, build resilience and coping skills within the community. So for me, I tend to push HPN for Tigray's mental health curriculum, which is a curriculum that the team, this just stellar team, came together along with psychiatrists, therapists, psychologists to really make it a not just a curriculum for those who may be traumatized or gone through traumatic experiences, but to make sure that it's culturally appropriate, something for us, and it doesn't hurt to remind by us, along with our allies. So right now, we've trained facilitators within the refugee camps in Sudan who are helping with both adult and children. And having these group conversations, which are, I think, really great. But please invite our team to join you and start providing this curriculum and training those who are ready to train to have these peer-to-peer conversations. So that would be a really great way, because that curriculum helps us talk about how to cope and what are those skills to cope. And not a bad way to really get ready for the complete reopening of Tigray, where we can be boots on the ground, actually helping our people. I especially want to put a plug in right now for those who speak Tigrinya, not that you have to, because the diaspora need it as well. But those who have major plans to go back home, you can be helping within your own family. Also, schools, hospitals. These are things that you can do, even if you're not a mental health professional. And again, please contact me if that is something that is of interest to you. Number
do you have 5th one, 6th one?
Yeah, yep, 5. Real quickly is promoting healing and what it is to basically identifying what does peace really mean to you. And as we know, there's no peace without accountability. And so if you are an advocate or interested in advocacy work, and I always tend to talk about this from the advocacy perspective, because I know as a people, especially right now, we have a hard time thinking about ourselves outside of our people, which is a genuinely, it's just who we are. And so if you're wondering what should we be doing next? They say it's peace. I don't believe it's enough. And so I say, why not start looking into work in helping bring accountability to perpetrators in whatever way that is. And again, our advocacy community, greater community, I know you've had wonderful folks from Tigray Action Committee and Stand with Tigray, of course, HPN for Tigray's advocacy, and just so many more of our stellar advocacy groups. Reach out and see, how to be involved. And number 6, engage in collective action. to create a positive change. That's who we are anyway as a people. We are bonded by this, but we were already together before this. But let's not allow differing of opinions to break apart what took 2 years of trying our best to help our people put together. So let's maintain our togetherness. Let's not let anything or anyone put a wedge in our community.
These are very helpful, great points, advices, Helena. I have one curious question. What is this trauma making us as a society? I mean, is it making us hate others, be aggressive, be timid? And what happens if we don't deal with them constructively and if we let them overcome us? And what is it making us as a society?
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, I refer to studies past and current, but any kind of response, especially to trauma, is very personalized. So as we speak sort of in generalities, I can definitely highlight some things that people may be going through. Not being able to grieve properly. That's a big one that I'm seeing right now, that we're seeing, and that is common with a situation like this. Sort of butting heads, the feeling is this thing ending? Is this thing still going? Are people still paying attention? Is the international community just assuming there's peace, even though there are perpetrators still committing crimes? And so those sort of differing views are causing clashes, which is the reason why I said we must maintain our togetherness. Again, all of this is because of the trauma, and acknowledging that we have been traumatized helps us to give each other that grace and that empathy that is desperately needed right now. What about the things like post-traumatic syndrome that happens, meaning everything as a diaspora that we've read, that we've engaged with, I don't want this to be traumatizing for anyone else, so I won't name all of the things, but we know the things we've seen online, we know the things we've read, the feelings, the hazan, we know all of it. So how do we put that in a box and work towards peace? It's just not possible when there's still perpetrators and crimes still happening. And so seeing all of this and the need to quickly understand that, again, first and foremost, acknowledging that the trauma is real, and even how we're reacting to this phase is informed by that trauma we've been feeling for 2 years, and then having grace with one another, finding ways to understand one another and help one another. That's going to be the primary here, again, to ensure our continuation as a people, and in a way that will help us end up as or stronger than we started. We like to say, we are the ones we've been waiting for. Early on, when we were shouting for the world, we recognized that no one was coming to save us, so to speak. That's when we went to work fast. So we continue that even in so-called peace times and in actual peace times. We got to stay together. We've got to stay vigilant, and we got to keep working.
Great. Helena, does the trauma end? Does it have a time that it completely is over and it disappears in entirety? I mean, you told us that it's experienced at individual level and at personal level, but will it stay, or will some of it stay forever with us?
It will forever stay with us in one way or another, but the amount of work that we do right now, immediately, not just after, but during the actual trauma, time will tell how it continues to affect us, because as we know, there's generational trauma that happens. There are those of us who carry it. Trauma is both physical and mental, because the body, the mind informs the body, and the body informs the mind. And so it shows up when it's not when you don't take care of yourself, or you don't talk about it or seek treatment for those who may need more than conversational intervention, there are those of us who may need medical intervention, which there is nothing wrong with, and normalizing these kind of conversations, making sure we help each other get that help, making sure we check on our neighbors, our brothers and sisters, and what about just complete strangers? Because we're Tigrayans, okay? Tagaroina Salazi, we're just checking on each other. That will tell how this trauma, how quickly as a society we're able to kind of, I want to say normalize, but just using that word generally, but also generationally, how, because we've seen certain communities that have made something like this, use it as a strength as opposed to a downfall. And hopefully as Tigrayans, that's what we want to work towards. And I believe we can.
Mm-hmm. Just one more to go, and can we make it worse? And what are the ways we should watch out not to make it worse?
Absolutely. You've got the great questions, Dada Hawa. Making it worse is not acknowledging that, or thinking that you are that one person. You're so strong, you're so resilient that this is not affecting you. And not to rain on your parade, but there are many types of traumas. There's direct trauma that our people in Tigray are facing. There's indirect trauma that we in the diaspora are experiencing, meaning through understanding what our family is going through, hearing the actual stories, engaging with this material on social media and on the news. There is trauma that our allies are going through. So many different types of traumas, but we can make it worse by not acknowledging it and not seeking these different ways, like somehow finding resources or dealing with it with arming ourselves with coping mechanisms. How does it get worse? Like I mentioned, the lack of sleep because of the trauma, the overeating or lack of eating in the diaspora, the overconsumption of, alcohol or cigarettes. Maybe you smoked before, but now you're smoking way too much. Maybe you were drinking socially, but now you can't go to sleep without drinking. Even within our own homes, we're doing so much advocacy work for those of our community members in advocacy. Our home lives are suffering greatly. So if your own homes blow up, so to speak, then there's that feeling of you don't have the lightness, or you don't have that. The drive is pushed by something else. There's that background noise that happens, and you want to be at peace as much as you can as we continue this marathon to make Tigray whole again. So that's how it can get worse. Also, please don't forget how about those annual checkups, those annual physical checkups that we need to really push within our community. If mental health, or if our minds affect our bodies and vice versa, trauma shows up in all of these diseases, hypertension, like high blood pressure, diabetes, heart issues of any kind. You've got weight fluctuation issues that happen again that really weaken the heart. And also the insomnia, it's been correlated to things like Alzheimer's, things like cancer. And so we really want to be sure we are maintaining our own health, and again, advocating for yourself and your health as we advocate for our people.
Thank you so much, Helena. We want you to come more often to speak more on this. As you also alluded that this is a thing that it will stay with us for a while. So we want your sharing and help our people. That was Helena Taddese. She was with me on those points, a community advocate for mental health, founder of ET, which documents and catalogs the hate speech during the Tigray genocide, and program manager at the HPN for Tigray. Thank you, Helena. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dada Zahawi. Thank
And
you.
then it's a goodbye from me. Thanks, viewers. That's all.